Welcome to Lunch and Learn with the Salina League of Women Voters. The date is September 13th, 2022, and we have today a guest from the Kansas Civic Network. Let me first say that the League of Women Voters is a non-partisan, not-for-profit organization of volunteers, men and women, working to increase civic participation, voter turnout, and accurate information for the public. It seems that Kansas Civic Network has many of the same goals as the League of Women Voters, which made us interested in hearing from their group. And today we have their president, director,
executive director, yes.
Executive Director, Andres Mata, to tell us about the Kansas Civic Network. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Thank you.
My name is Andres Mata, and today I'll be speaking about what we do at KCN and what we aim to do and where we're going. So let's begin. So before we begin the presentation, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Salina, been a Salina resident for the past 15 or so years, and graduated from Salina South in 2017, and always been interested in civic engagement one way or another. At the age of 13, I had a privilege of serving on the Salina Human Relations Commission, and I served on that commission for 3 years. And up until my sophomore year of high school, I decided to make a switch and serve 2 additional years on the planning commission here in Salina. So everything downtown Salina, all these great projects that had time to develop. I had a seat at the table. I had the privilege of having a voice for the young people in my demographic. And so on that, and about 15 years of somewhat political engagement here. I served after high school. I graduated I went to school at Heston and Bethel College, and there I got the privilege to lobby on behalf of the Mennonite Central Committee on immigration I just finished up my term for 4 years. And so that gave me an experience and development into what does civic engagement look like here in Kansas. So after this, service to others in the community, I realized that young people were not being heard or at the table. And so after years of just thinking about it, we finally, put the pen and paper together and created this Kansas Civic Network. And what we do, our mission is to create an equal, respectful, and robust conversation about the issues currently facing communities in Kansas. We're specifically more involved in our rural areas. One of the things that I found while researching for confirmation about this group is that Eastern Kansas, whatever, not right or wrong, just what it is, has a grip or monopoly on the resources. And everything west of basically Salina is, one of the things that really takes me off is outside organizations or other organizations, that are well-minded, they mean well, but they call Salina and other communities distressed communities. And just because we're not active as much, we're not seen as much, does not mean nothing's going on. And so put all that together, and one of the things that kind of impacted me the most is that I talked to young people and elected officials throughout the year before launching it. And what I saw is that there's a lot of passion in young people to give back to the community one way or another in rural areas, but they ran into barriers, whether it was, a lot of, didn't know where to go, or, that young person mind barrier, in terms of you got to wait your turn, good ideas, but, hold on to that. And so, and then we created the Kansas Civic Network. And we have 3 core values that we align ourselves with. It is community, we're excited and proud that we're from rural Kansas. It's not, rural life is not lesser than. We're proud to represent Salina and the Hayes of the world. And passion, boy, when I go out to Western Kansas, Garden City of Hayes, we see that front and center, that energy and drive of folks under 20 wanting to be involved. In public service, on our team, you'll see throughout our team, we're diverse in areas, we're all, have different walks of life. And so we have served differently, and, and doesn't mean to be an elected official, it means public service. It's about volunteering, getting out in the community, and, getting to know your neighbors. And we see that as a huge component of our work. And so a little bit about our team. We have 24 total members. All of them are under the age of 40. And 24, we're all spread across the state. There's a huge contingent of Salina and Lynchburg, just because the way our team members are, about 13 of them are still in college. And so either Bethany or Hayes or Port Hayes or other schools scattered across the state. And 14 members are either living or working in rural areas. And so that kind of gives you a snapshot of who we are, in terms, our furthest member is down in Liberal, Kansas. And she does our voter engagement piece for us. And we're all statewide. And so we do all this work through 8 areas, ranging from food insecurity, criminal justice, housing, immigration, healthcare, education, economy, or economic, and voting. And so what we do is, when we decided to narrow down what are going to be our focus areas, we thought about, is it relevant in rural Kansas? And is it not, we're nonpartisan, we don't, especially on our voting, we don't care who's on the ballot. What we care is who's choosing the winner. And that's our, where we input our conversation. So we're, nonpartisan, and trying to get more people involved in our civic life. And we do this, and as an academic, getting that pushing through, it's like, how do we create a civic footprint? And so we follow, all of our programming follows this framework that 3 professors at the University of Pennsylvania came up with, what does a civic footprint look like? They said, civic engagement programs that engage volunteers and donors, bring community members together, collaborate with organizations beyond the community, and promote community education and awareness. So essentially, we're connecting home, citizens to the home communities. And one of the things that I want to make beyond, stress enough is a 4th point: collaborate with organizations outside the community. As you'll see, we have partners. We have established about 30 partners scattered, throughout the state of Kansas. It's not just Salina, not just Lynchburg, not just Hayes. And
when you say partners, do you mean towns, or do you mean other organizations?
Other organizations and other, like city management style. So great variety of our partners, or we call them connections. It's like, who can we lean on? And, if something's going on in Lynchburg, who can we lean on? Who's our contact person? It might be, ad hoc with their group, or it might be the city of Lynchburg. And, you know, we want to be seen as a collaborator, not a competitor. And so we want to rely upon, you know, the existing infrastructure in the community, and not move the shoulders and put our name on it. And so we've been active for 2.5 years, since February of 2020. What jump-started our organization was a partnership with Bethany College on creating a food insecurity program, or food insecurity report. And, you know, think about Lindsborg, 3,500 people on a good day, and 700 people on Bethany College. And what we found was that 1/3 of our students and faculty reported they were food insecure. Think about that. It's not really seen. And just because it's not seen, it's not perceived. But we want to change the narratives, like, yes, it does exist, because if you're an athlete, you know, and cafeterias runs between 6 and 8, and your practice ends at 9, your best shot at a nutritious food is either making it to Subway or Casey's. And so we changed that perception and started conversations, right? And that's what we do. We start conversations. We assist to the best of our ability. It's like, hey, it's been an issue. Here's our recommendation for you to do, the follow-up. And so community members and churches came together and they said, okay, after 15 years of doing, you know, talking about it, let's finally do it. Let's establish a food pantry in Lindsborg. And they set the launch date for fall of 2020. But COVID happened, and that accelerated the need. And in a week, led by Messiah Church in Lindsborg, got $8,000 just in donations, in community donations, in 1 week. And so that confirmed that, yes, a food pantry is needed in Lindsborg. And then by the summer of 2020, Lindsborg established its first food pantry in its history. Prior to that, they were driving to McPherson, to the county one. So think about all those barriers, let alone transportation, but the stigma and rural living. And so, we try to work with, our partners, who can we lean on in the community and make, we like to say, kind of like Shark Tank, we pour gasoline on the greatness already existing. They just need a little more push, and things happen. Other things, we're part of the Salina County Coalition, Healthier Salina County. We sponsored and worked with the United Way of Ellis County and to do their bilingual resource fair there. And we're working with UC 305 to curate opportunities for volunteers and internships. Again, because we want to start, because we realized that if you're a senior in high school, that's the only civic education you get, and it's a half a semester, and there's no really depth to that. And so we want to, again, change that narrative and start at middle school and high school, and get them, bring in the Salina County elections, make them know how to work that election. Whether it's poll workers, and that's what, our long-term plan is, but short-term is working with getting into schools. And here's some of our working relationships. Lao Light is one of the, on voter registration education in the state. The National Association of Social Workers, the Kansas chapter, we have about 10 members of our team that are social workers, either in school or actively in their profession. And so, they had me present at their February conference in Topeka, because it's about the profession, giving back to the community and advocating for the community. It's not, red, or it's not blue or red. It's more of the community centered. Salina Rescue Mission is on there. Great Bend. Lead for Kansas is more about retaining young talent in the state and giving them a platform to, because our biggest export is our talent. And so we want to retain as much as we can, and especially in rural Kansas. And let's see. And we're working right now with, we submitted a grant through the PAVE process in the state of Kansas. That's pandemic and vaccine equity education, providing, taking those barriers for vaccination access and education, breaking down those myths. Hopefully, we submitted that grant application. We'll be hearing about this hopefully this week or next week. And then volunteer, we're working with stakeholders in McPherson County to create a volunteer hub. A lot of people, when we were researching this, a lot of folks we realized that a lot of folks are driving from Lindsborg or the McPherson County area to Hutchinson just to volunteer. You think about it, McPherson County, 5 colleges, 5 school districts. United Way is there, all these heavy, those community anchors, but still people are still moving or traveling just to volunteer to other places. And so what we found was there's no contact, there's no communication. The folks that want to volunteer aren't talking to the folks needing volunteers. And so it's just a matter of that, making a little switch and providing that structure that we're working towards creating that. And it's just about, bringing everyone on board from City of Lynchburg, Bethany College, and county overall. And so that kind of gives you a crash course into our organization. Like I said, we've been active for 2.5 years. Me personally, this was my own personal social experiment because I love Kansas. It's a very unpopular opinion among my age group. However, I want to give back, and so I told myself, I'm going to put everything in this to make it work, to make it successful. And if it, I gave it a good faith effort, I'll literally move to Washington, D.C. And so, obviously, that experiment worked because people and communities are buying into this civic, I joke around like, everyone's talking about how important elections are. We've been preaching it for a long time. I'm excited that everyone is getting more involved in that. And so, we're excited to move forward, and just, like I said, just 2.5 years, we've accomplished so much, and we're excited about where we're going. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of us.
Okay. I have some questions. The McPherson County Volunteer Hub that you just talked about, did that just start, or did you find it and decide it needed to be really better, or what did you do with that?
Yeah, we're doing, because our goal is to get to the whole county.
Yeah.
And so we're breaking it up. Lynchburg into pieces. So the first phase is Lynchburg, getting something set up there. We're doing a pilot program with City of Lynchburg and creating opportunity or connecting opportunities. So the first is called Lift Up Lynchburg. It's getting volunteers to help their neighbors paint houses or restore or do yard work, stuff like that. Start small. And so that all that is city funded. And so that, again, realizing their commitment and that, volunteer and all that, you're more likely, health outcomes rise. And so currently working with Lynchburg, and then once we establish traction there, we move on to McPherson, then after McPherson, the whole county.
But the volunteer hub, does it exist now? Because I know we have one that's called that in Salina County, only it's under the United Way.
Yeah, it is active. And so it's housed on our website. And so what, we were just talking about how technology is great. We actually found, it's called Airtable, and it's automated. And so we just, the folks needed volunteers, just submit a request, and volunteers, or folks that are wanting to volunteer, just click one click on our website and connect them with everyone. So instead of us, say we're needing 5 volunteers, you come to me, I put it on our website, and then 2 weeks later, maybe we get a volunteer. But now that we automated that process, it's more quicker and doesn't require much more bandwidth from us. And so it's all automated.
That's good. What was your major?
My major was history and political science. So I went to Bethel College first, and then ended up withdrawing that semester and joined Heston. And Heston's a 2-year college, and they didn't have my major, so it didn't make sense for me to stay another 2 years, finish out. And so I ended up taking a gap year after that, and then found my way to Bethel.
Okay. Where did you go first?
Bethel.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I worked there, like my mom says, everything happened for a reason. And so while my time there, I got spent with the Mennonite Central Committee, and I was actually a student assistant office worker at KIPCOR, with the Kansas Institute for Peace and Justice.
Conflict resolution.
And so, getting that experience has certainly helped assist me.
Are you able to engage with the school district and with the schools in Lindsborg? Are you able to go into a classroom and communicate and talk to like high school students? Do you do that?
Yeah, not specifically Lindsborg. We decided, because we just had a new superintendent, so we decided we won't give him time before we go barge into his office. But we're having those conversations here in Salina.
Oh, you're doing that here in Salina, in the schools?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And Dr. Stevens, who was a principal at Sal's, we've known each other for the past 12 years. Having already established our relationships, that's where we start with. Now that he's at the district office, he has more leeway into more kind of like programming style. And so that's where our partnership and conversations started.
So you already are
Yeah,
going to
we will
classrooms?
be, yeah.
Or you will be?
Yeah, we will be.
You will be, okay.
Once, because COVID, we're still, that's still in an awkward stage. Either still or still aren't, but certainly once we have more access, Zoom has been really helpful for us in getting, sessions put in. But now that we just added a team member. It's actually a secondary, or she's an 8th grade government teacher at Lakewood. And so, who actually graduated from Bethany. And she was also my classes. And so once we have those things in place, we'll be accelerating our programming with our young people.
Well, we are very impressed that you have all these young people involved. I wonder, are you getting more people? Like you'll be getting further away from the college years, and are you still going to be able to recruit new members to your organization, you think?
Yeah, I think that's one, kind of crazy. All of our partners happen organically. Nobody from our team reached out to us. I remember sitting in class one day, late last semester, around September, and they were, we were in class and my phone rings, and it's the Kansas Health Foundation. And, he so I had to, in the Kansas Health Foundation calls, you pick up the phone. And so I excused myself, and they said, hey, saw your website on Twitter, we want to talk to you. And so we started those connections. And then same with this grant from the state of Kansas. They found us on our website. And so everyone, it's kind of cool how that works, because no one from our team reached out. They just happened to find us. And, someone from the Salina Resource Management Association reached out to us.
Human resources.
Yeah, Human Resources reached out because they saw us on Facebook. And so it's more organically, but on the recruiting side, there's a new trend in higher education and recruiting members. It's called handshake. So that is kind of LinkedIn type, but it's for folks who are already in school or recent graduates. And so we're on about 52 colleges across our region. And so we put up, say if we need social media manager, we just submit that and it gets approved. And so whoever wants to be interested on that, but mostly all the folks that have been on the team, with the exception about maybe 5, I've known for the past 10 years. And so when I was ready to launch this, I called them up. I had buddies on there from Boise State about 7 years ago, still, keeping in contact, and who have joined our effort and the team. But it was more about getting out there, and we love traveling. 1 week I was in before the pandemic, I was in Hayes, Heston, and Wichita on 1 week. So I love traveling and all that. And my day job, that's really cool too. My day job is I'm a membership director at Sam's Club here in Salina, and everyone has day jobs too.
I'm sorry, what in Salina?
I'm the membership coordinator
At Sam's.
at Sam's.
Oh, it's Sam's, okay.
And so everyone has their day jobs, but we just make time for that. And one person on our team is actually working for the tourism office for the state of Kansas. And so it's kind of like, when I say we're passionate, a lot of people young people that I've talked to, whether it's, they've been told it's not to wait your turn. I'm fortunate I've not had, throughout my life, I did not have someone tear me down like that. And it's about giving platforms. And so, especially when I was on the board, on the commissions throughout my high school career, had input, and have that input is really empowering to make, have those conversations and be taken seriously. And that's another thing too. And so when we go into these communities, is more, or having those conversations with our young people, is that, small, we want you to move out, we want you to stay. And what we realize is that rural communities move mountains. Take Lindsborg, for example, they're doing housing, whereas Salina just started building homes, whereas Lindsborg just finished up their lots. And so it's more of that, but just having those conversations with our young people, that you literally, from the hierarchy of needs, that 1, you matter, 2, what your opinions and what you're passionate about matters, and so we just formalize that into Adam on our team.
So I'm curious, who convinced you to get onto this planning board? Is not the first one you were on?
The human relations.
Oh, human relations.
Yeah.
Did somebody recruit you for that? Or?
No, it was about 7th grade. I realized that, I want a career in public service. And that's when I solidified it, because, I'm not good at math, I can't draw, all those things. So process by elimination. So that's when I realized, and I told my social studies teacher and said, hey, I want to make a career in government. I don't care what it is, just, I love politics and all that. And he said, well, write a letter to Senator Moran. So I did, just, hey, Senator, I'm interested, I want to get back. What's your advice? And I got a reply. And I was so excited. And in there, and I still have that letter, in there, he issued a challenge, to go find opportunities, volunteer opportunities here in Salina that are open for you. Because when Kansas, get that tagline, when Kansas gives back to communities, everything goes well, or something along the lines like that. And so I took it as a challenge, and so I took out my phone, Google searched opportunities here in Salina, and right about that time, the City of Salina launched a program called Youth on Board, which allowed, but I didn't realize it till year end, but the initial program was for 15 and 20 years old. I was 13, and nobody asked me, and it was overlooked. And so they kept me on for 2 years, and then that's when I decided, Mayor Blanchard, Norm Jennings was the mayor when I was put on the Human Relations Commission, and then Mayor Blanchard nominated me for the Planning Commission. And so, because his sister was the general manager at Rip Crib, and so I was the host, and he, when the mayor knows your name, it's kind of cool, and so, and he was telling me that my term was about to expire on a human relations, and he asked me right there, as I'm trying to seat him, find a table for him, he said, what are you going to do next? And so, well, I haven't figured that out yet, but he's like, well, try it for the planning commission. I think you'll do good. And so I said, after researching, like any, politician, he convenes the family meeting. And I had my family around, like, give everyone the input, and then we decided it'll be the best fit for me. And so that's how that got done.
Right when the Salina downtown was.
Yeah, right on the
Yeah.
cusp
Yeah.
of being a thing. And so it's really, and that's what I tell people, is that when you get in this type of work, it's more of a marathon. You just planting a seed. An example of this downtown Salina. I remember for years it's been talked about, and then the more energy one puts in, and next, 10, 12 years later, you have the greatest downtown in Kansas. And so that's more, and it's really cool to see, all done. Whereas, when you're sitting in those meetings, you don't really visualize it and the impact. And that's what, wherever I go, I tell the story of success here in Salina, Lindsborg and Hayes, of what we're doing here. And the cool part is that we're all rural, and so it's my friends at, whether it's Lawrence or KC metro area, they're like, well, what's in Salina? Well, let me tell you about Salina, since you asked. So I do, everywhere I go, I do a commercial for all our communities.
I just wanted to mention that I moved here from Colorado, from Denver area, about 4 years ago, and when I decided to make that move, I had all kinds of people saying, why are you going to the middle of Kansas? I mean, a lot of people said that to me. And I said, well, for one thing, I can't see and I shouldn't be driving these streets. But ever since I came to Salina, I have been amazed at the changes, at the growth, at the downtown area and the expansion, and everything they're doing here in Salina is so, to me, progressive. And the people who have come through to visit me have also been astounded by the things that they've seen here, the growth, the expansion, just the sense of strong community, especially in the downtown area. So I'm commending you and your work to help bring it about. It's been great. I'm very proud of living in Salina.
Yeah, and I think, thanks for sharing that. I think that's, more of the success stories that we want to bring about. It's more about, again, retaining our young people. Like, there's things to do here in Salina. And, with the expansion of an airport, no one else has the airport that we do, let alone free. I sell people on free parking. It's the little things at the airport that has established ourselves as the economic powerhouse that we are here. Even at Sam's, I'm very passionate about who comes into our store. About 60% of our members don't have a zip code here in Salina. So it's all about the small communities. And when I get to talking to people, like, oh, I drove about 2 hours from here. I'm like, well, yeah, where are you coming from? He goes, well, it's all relational, it's all like, about 15 miles from here, I'm like, no, tell me the town, because 9 times out of 10, I've probably driven. And when I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, Hillsboro, yeah, I know exactly where that is. Their eyes lights up. I'm like, wow. I'm like, first of all, because I know their town, second, because of my age. And so yeah, it's really cool to see that and, bring people in and have a conversation. It's really powerful, and we take for granted now what we do, because, like, take January 6th for a second, that has been the most, I remember Sam, when I was like, I couldn't believe it, because you do all this stuff to prevent that. And when we fall off the cliff, it's more, looking ourselves in the mirror. It's like, who are we? If everywhere in the world is condemning us for our actions on that fateful day, who are we? And about democracy, it's not about, like it previously said, we don't care who's on the ballot, that's not our area. It's about who's choosing the winner. And people tend to lose that now more than ever. And so, we want to put out the most accurate information, and we have called out folks, it's more of our corporate citizenship, call out when we see, restrictive ballot measures or restrictive legislative actions from Topeka coming down, but who and what can vote, and restricting the right to vote is really an infringement on all of us, not just which neighborhood you're from. And so yeah.
Well, let's give him a hand. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little preview of what our upcoming events are. So, and Lori is gonna help me remember. We are hoping to have a candidate forum with the Salina Area Technical College on is that the 20th?
12th of October.
12th of October, which is a Thursday night?
Wednesday afternoon at 3.
Wednesday afternoon at 3, yes. Yes, that's why I have my lovely president here, and I'm the vice president. It's a Wednesday afternoon in October, the 12th. Is that really, somebody check, is that really it? Okay, Wednesday afternoon. And then also in October, we have on the 20th, that's on the 20th, thank you. Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, there we have our Fall Issues Forum. It is about the things that are on the ballot, not the candidates so much, but there are 2 new constitutional amendments proposed on the November ballot. We'll be talking about them a little bit, and we will be talking about the judicial retention votes that are on the ballot in November. November 8th is the election, general election. October 20th, Thursday evening at 7 o'clock at Courtyard by Marriott, we will be discussing the ballot issues for the November 8th election, including the constitutional amendments that are proposed there, 2 of them, and judicial retention votes. We have 2 former Supreme Court justices, Justice Salina Nuss and Justice Carol Beyer, presenting to us at that forum. So, thank you for coming to Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Andre, so much, and thank you for watching.